Hello, everyone. Welcome to Word Funk. I'm Leon Thomas. I'm joined by Johnny Maloney and Austin Yursky. We are recording this on the 4th of July.
Happy Freedom Birthday!
It's nighttime, which means everyone's deciding to shoot fireworks and play their music really loud and allow their children out of their cages. And, like, I don't know.
This is the only day we're allowed to be free, Leon. The rest of the year, there's no freedom. It's like the Purge, but in reverse.
Yep.
There's
Austin,
no murder.
Austin,
just freedom.
you would know this, but Leon wouldn't because he's his own boss. Is today the day off, or was everybody like, take Monday?
No one's ever taken a day off in America, Johnny. I don't know. Canada is weird. What do you guys do when you're not working?
Bump into people on the street and practice apologizing.
That's really productive.
Well, it's a skill, so you have to brush up on it every now and then, and there's nobody better to practice apologizing with than a Canadian.
So if I work really hard,
sport.
I can become more Canadian by just really putting the work in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not something
Canadian
you're born
is a
with.
state of mind more than anything else.
That's reassuring.
It's why when Americans go away abroad, they put like little Canadian flags on their like backpacks and luggage and things like that, and be like, "Oh no, I'm from Canada, eh?"
Yeah, please don't make assumptions. I know I look like a white person, but there are different kinds of us. I promise.
Nah, Austin, we're not all white in Canada,
No, I know, but I was just had a picture in my mind, my mental picture, and I was just going with the scene. Sometimes the scene just takes you with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This episode, Leon set up the 4th of July context because there's going to be a lot of background noise. This might be a short one. We'll see how much we can get out before the whole thing collapses around us.
And I had a perfectly nice Canada Day. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, we got a question about
how was
that.
it?
People asked last week what were you going to do for Canada Day.
Well, we can talk about that later. The questions, or I can talk about it now if you want.
Yeah, why not, man? We might not make it. Okay, there's nothing more boring than talking about the weather, but it's 108 degrees here. If I am conscious by the end of this recording, it's a minor miracle. So just hit me, dude.
Yeah.
I watched a movie and I went to bed early.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I don't have any friends.
Were you about to complain, Leon, about your temperature?
Yeah, my temperature is not as bad as yours, but it is still very hot. And because I have to record right now, it means the air conditioning is off, which means like the hot that it is outside is now the hot that it is right now, as opposed to like me, sitting in my room with all the coolness that I normally do.
It's just this hot ass computer.
It's just my computer is also it's loud and it's hot and it doesn't it's just the way it is. I don't feel well at all right now. Like
after the Dice Funk recording yesterday, I was seriously contemplating seeking medical attention because it was just 2 hours of sitting in basically the kind of sweat boxes they use to torture prisoners in Arizona. That's a real thing. I don't know what anybody knows anymore. Do you guys, there's stuff that came out that we can talk about that I'm ready to talk about.
You go right ahead. Unfortunately, I had a lot to talk about last week. I have very little to talk about this week, at least by comparison.
Mm-hmm. If you mute your microphone, you can just stick your head in the freezer. Just walk away.
My freezer is in the other room, so I can't listen to you and also be in the other room.
Don't pretend like you listen to me, Leon. So there's a new season of Glow on Netflix, and I watched it. Either of you?
So did I.
Yay!
It's weird that I'm the only one who hasn't seen Glow.
Because you're the wrestle boy.
I am.
So we talked about the first season. I enjoyed it very much. It had a little bit of transgressive humor that I didn't love, but besides that, I thought the characters were strong, and it was a really interesting fictionalized event, like a real thing that happened, but obviously they added a bunch of drama and stuff to it. I watched a documentary about the real events. Season 2 just came out, and I watched it, and I like it a lot too. Johnny?
I like it more than the first one.
Yeah, I think they really toned down some of like their South Park tendencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To really drill down into. There's one episode which I think kind of almost reached like socio-political horror. Like it's a cheap comparison, but like Get Out almost. there was a crowd of white people all chanting, get a job at a black woman. And it was like, oh my God, like this is legitimately terrifying. So they went some places, and there was also just an episode which was beginning to end a fictionalized version of an episode of Glow, which seems like an obvious thing to do, but also incredibly novel.
It was pretty fantastic episode too.
Yeah, just levels of camp unseen since the debut of Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked it a lot. They flirted with making a couple characters too unlikable to redeem. The male lead, whose real name is Mark Maron, I believe.
Maron. One of my favorites, actually.
It's so dangerous how close they push him to being unredeemable and then try to drag him back. And I think it works for me, but I can see if it doesn't for some people, because he is a fucking dick.
Just as a person, Mark Maron is one of my favorites. I suppose I should clarify that. He runs the very famous podcast, WTF, What the Fuck with Mark Maron.
Yep.
He's got a show on IFC, as well as a decades-year-long spanning stand-up career. I am convinced that Mark Maron may actually be me from the future.
Oh, you get a sweet mustache?
Who has traveled back in time. That's the only thing, is that I'm like, nah, I can't do that mustache. It must not be me. He's got to be somebody else.
It's mesmerizing. I find myself staring at it and like falling into it. Like it's some
a luxurious
Lovecraftian
stash.
Thing. Oh, it's very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a really good show. The one thing I would bring up, because I have some leg injury experience, is that in the real Glow that happened, decades ago, there was a very grotesque injury that happened on the show. And this season attempts to do that plot point, but it is it's extremely watered down compared to the real injury, which is fine. I didn't want to see
what really happened.
Oh, so what really happened is something that my brain immediately said, oh, she got Joe Theismann. And in the fictional show Glow, they compare this other injury to Joe Theismann. So it's very, if you don't know, he was a quarterback who had his leg broken on national TV and the bone was sticking out of his leg. Like that level of gruesome. In the Netflix show, it is not that.
It's a clean snap.
Yeah, I've
had one of those breaks before. When I was a kid, I broke both bones in my left forearm.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, it was a clean snap. And when I kind of came to and was like, oh, my wrist bone was like not in the right spot.
Uh-oh.
Like my hand had basically gone from palm down to palm pointing to the left-hand side.
Oops.
Like, yeah, full 90-degree rotation. So, like, they were like, it's a clean break. Nothing wrong. It's going to heal just fine. Congratulations. And I'm like, nah, I bet it didn't happen like that.
Now I'm the doctor. So, yeah, I think it would have been irresponsible to make a show about wrestling and never have an injury. That seems like kind of a dereliction of duty. And they do it, and there's a good moment where the millionaire heir who funds the show says I paid your medical bill because you absolutely could not afford it and none of you have insurance, and that's for a moment this comedy show gets real about that. It's not so much that it's a downer, but they bring that up, and yeah, there's a whole scene of who here has insurance, and nobody raises their hand except for two well-established people. It's a whole thing. Once again, probably incomprehensible to Canadians.
They also kind of just barely skim past the AIDS crisis.
Yeah,
that was just a light scrape.
They don't say the word AIDS on screen. Someone says he died of technically
he died of pneumonia.
Yeah,
which is code word in the 80s.
Well, what AIDS does weakens your system so that other diseases technically kill you. I'm curious if they're going to go deeper, because there's a hook for the next season. It's not over by a long shot. But I wonder if they'll go into it, because this season, like you said, just scrapes it. And it's hey, this is a thing that was going on.
It was it's the worst scoop at Baskin-Robbins you could ask for.
Jesus.
Be hey, yeah, can I get a double scoop of AIDS? And then it's just
Johnny.
You
There's
get-
a lot.
I mimed that. Did
Yeah.
you hear me mime that? Just that, like...
Thank you. There is a lot of homoeroticism in the first season, but there's just like new gay characters in this one, which is good. That's another thing.
And I like it how they just, like, put that on the floor right away.
Yeah.
You know,
There's-
they don't spend, like, 6 episodes being like, okay, now let's have the big come-out scene. It's like, no, right away she's like, I like box. And someone's like, oh, God, could you use another word? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I like pussy.
Yeah. And the other one where the main character says something like, that's cool, but she's like clearly very awkward, but it's like in a way that feels like a nice person in the 80s rather than like a sanitized make-believe version. It's an interesting. Also, they're in LA, so I don't know. I wasn't alive then. I assume the show would be different in Alabama. Yeah, so I like it a lot. I don't really have anything else to say. It's just a good show that I recommend.
Mm-hmm. Definitely improved upon the first season.
Yeah, pretty much. Johnny.
That's me.
I have more to talk about, but I want to hear you talk about stuff.
Oh, I don't know. I had a weird week. I had some pretty bad shakes earlier this week. So I did things like kind of like lay in the bath. I was mostly recumbent. I watched some movies, but I'm trying to remember what movies I watched. Like, you know, the problem is when I get tremors, when I get really bad tremors, I can't play video games. And I have trouble reading. Like that was something I tried the other day. Is that I had really bad tremors, so I was like, hey, why don't you go like lie down in the bath, because hot water seems to like relax everything, and then you can read a book. And I couldn't hold the book steady, so I couldn't read it. You know, so when stuff gets bad, what normally winds up happening is that I just kind of like lie down on my couch and watch whatever's up on television, or like on Netflix or something like that. I finished season 2 of Westworld this week, and season 3 of The Expanse.
Okay, is it Amazon funded stuff yet, or they
Not well. No. The end of season 3 was Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi announced, we're not going to do The Expanse anymore. I think probably because it was way too costly. So season 4 is going to be the first Amazon season that we get of The Expanse.
Okay.
Season 3 was fire, man.
Yeah, I keep meaning to catch up. I think I watch and play a million things every week, and that one just keeps slipping in the priorities. Not because I don't like it, but
no, I mean, like if you stalled in season 2, I get why. Season 2 was this like weird kind of multi-directional. All these things are kind of happening at once, and you're sort of like, who's this person?
yeah, you can tell it came from a book as the source, because books are more able to do that. I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but.
Probably because when you start a new chapter with a new character, you immediately get more time with them.
Yeah.
You know, you're spending time with someone to get to know them. But when it happens in a TV show, you get like 5 minutes with this dude, and you're like, who is this guy? Like, what? But, you know, books aren't bound by time restrictions per episode, or like how much money an actor gets paid according to how many lines they have or how much screen time they get, you know, like it's fucked up. Adapting literature is one of the bravest things I think that you can do as a screenwriter or like a teleplay writer or something like that, because there's so many ways it could go wrong. But season 3 of The Expanse was hands down my favorite. Like it does a really good job of bringing everything to a very particular climax.
You know, I love the climax, Johnny.
Well, I mean, I really, 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 really would like to climax.
There's your come watch update.
There we go, right there. Tune into my Twitter @Scatterbrains. You will all know when this great badness erupts.
Well, Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday.
I like how I haven't heard Leon speak for 10 minutes. I just hear him whisper, Jesus.
And, like, aside from that, like, on the other end of the spectrum, have either of you guys finished Westworld Season 2?
No. I watched Season 1, and I'm getting it around to 2. Actually, I don't think I have access to the HBO app right now. I gotta find a password or something.
Right. Well, okay, I won't talk about plot or anything like that, but I had a real problem with story structure in Season 2. Because they still try to retain this whole, like, jumping around in time thing a little bit. And it doesn't really work. You know, it's like they think that the reason why people were interested in Westworld the first season was because, oh, you were just like, what's going on? Who are these people? But by the end of the first season, we know who these people are. We do. You know, we know what eras they live in. We know what... Like, if you want to throw a flashback in, that's fine with me. I've got no problems with a flashback. But, like, when you start one episode in the present, but then most of it happens, like, 6 weeks in the past...
Yeah,
like,
I think what you're saying, like, there's a line between gimmick and technique, and Season 1 used a technique to try to tell a story and characterize people, and now it feels like a gimmick that they're just holding on to.
They are utterly chasing the gimmick to, like, artificially inflate the concept of, like, the mystery of Westworld, you know? And there's a narrative device that they use to kind of justify it at the end, but I don't think it's... It doesn't justify it for the whole series. It honestly doesn't. I mean, it's still tremendously well acted, and the stakes are still there, and all the camera work and the set pieces are gorgeous still. Like, you know, everything that you might have loved outside of the structure of Westworld is still there. Yeah, but the structure they put in was just frustrating for me. Although there's this one fucking, like, super amazing episode that I'm not going to tell you about, but
I feel like part of the thing is, like, a response to fans. Like, this is... I don't know how this is going to sound, but part of the thing with the first season of Westworld was this viral obsession with solving the mystery, and now it feels like they're making a show to try to stump people who are trying to figure it out. That's the sense I get from my timeline, is people being like, oh, this is so wild how cryptic it is, and like, oh, do we see this Reddit thread where someone has a theory? Instead of just, like, watching a show to enjoy it, now it's like a game where the show makers are trying to make something that can't be cracked.
And it, like, don't ever make things for the fans. Like, don't do that, you know? Like, if somebody enjoys, or if, like, millions of people enjoy what you're doing, don't go back and be like, wow, I guess I should completely renegotiate my artistic ideals for this project so that I'm exclusively catering to people. Because those things fucking disappear. They go.
It
you
seems
know?
especially relevant in the Last Jedi age, though, where Rian Johnson did make the film he wanted to make and explore the things he wanted to explore, and people are extremely furious that he did not cater to them, so I can see why you might be scared.
But, I mean, you know, are you going to tell me that not another teen movie has, like, longevity?
I'm not going to tell you that, actually.
No, nobody is going to tell me that. But, like, and these are the things, is that movies like not another superhero movie, not another teen movie, and things like that are made exclusively for the tastes of people. And now, if you sit down and watch them, it's like, I'm dead, and not just inside. Like, that movie killed a friend of mine.
I just am thinking back to the whole Game of Thrones thing, where there was a very important plot point that the fans figured out, like, actual literal years ahead of time, and it took the wind out of, like, a huge part of the plot sales for some people. I don't know, probably millions of people still enjoy the show, but like one of the core mysteries was solved very, very early, and I feel like now HBO is scared of that. Maybe I'm projecting, but it's something like I knew about that before I really started watching the show, and I had never read any of the books, and it hadn't been revealed in the books yet. It was still supposed to be a mystery, and it just wasn't. So whatever.
Yeah. So
Leon,
I don't know.
Oh gosh.
No, I'm just saying, last comment. I don't know. Westworld Season 2, kind of lukewarm for me, except for, like, this one fucking episode, which was amazing. But The Expanse is definitely still one of my favorite shows. Leon.
Yeah.
How are your house people? The people who are
Awful.
projecting sounds into your house. I don't know why I could think of a word for that.
I hate them a lot.
Are they pumping those fat beats?
How are the beats?
It's Mexican music.
Love it.
Oh, so they're muy caliente.
No, it's just like the same sounds over and over again. It's just there's too much happening in my ears, and I don't like it. But anyway, I'm just gonna power through, so I can talk about how much James Bond sucks.
Let's go.
Fuck.
Let's dive in.
It's just terrible. Look, my introduction to James Bond was just to try to watch the Daniel Craig movies, and
Really? You came to it that late in life.
Yeah, I didn't care. 2 of the 4 are good. And it's like, okay, and that sounds like a pretty solid amount of good from like a movie series.
Which 2? Obviously, Casino Royale.
Casino Royale and Skyfall.
Okay.
Yeah,
You passed the test.
Yeah,
You're doing okay. I haven't seen the latest one, but those were the only 2 I liked.
It's passable. But yeah. But then I had to do an episode on James Bond like years ago, so I watched a few others, and I didn't much care for them, but like I kind of got it. It was like one of the this allegedly good ones, the GoldenEye, the Pierce Brosnan one that people like, and a couple others.
Well, GoldenEye was like the new James, like a new kind of like era of James Bond.
Sure, it was it was as I recall, it was fine. But like,
and
now
Sean Bean does die in it.
Yeah, of course. But now I'm watching them from front to back because I have to do an episode on this later this year.
Oh.
And so I'm watching
where are
all
you?
of. Right now, I just finished Thunderball, which I think is the 4th. Am I wrong? I might be wrong about that. Mm-hmm. But with that and the other James Bond movies I've watched like 10 James Bond movies
right
now.
Did you watch the first one that wasn't explicitly like a James Bond movie?
No.
Okay.
I'm just watching the core James Bond movies because
right.
Otherwise I will just plain die.
Right.
I can't. But yeah, I watched like I guess the first 4 Sean Connery James Bond movies. They're bad. They're bad in that they are not. Maybe thrillers and action movies just don't age well in the same way that comedy does not age well. But from like just a am I interested in this or not kind of way, I am not at all. But worse than that is just James Bond as a character. Like, as a human being who I'm supposed to, like... I'm watching him, and I'm like, this is how most men want to be, isn't it? Like, this is... That is the appeal of this character. This is, I get it now. Men who are supposed to watch this movie and be like, I wish I was James Bond. This guy's so cool. I will attach my ego to him and watch this movie through his eyes and penis. And that is the movie. He does not treat women well, which is like, duh. But I didn't realize how bad it was until I started watching. Like we all heard like little jokes, like, oh, James Bond slapping a woman on the ass, and like he always gets his girl, and it's like, okay, I get it. But no, there's a lot. The first one, he like kind of like manhandles a woman. in a way that is not cool. He has sex with a woman after he learns she is trying to kill him. The opening, titles to From Russia with Love, very suddenly cuts to a woman whose boobs are shaking around with 007 written on them. It's like, what? Why did this happen?
The 60s were super subtle, Leon, don't you know?
Listen, we can have the debate about what counts as the objectification of women or not, but the women in the title sequences to James Bond movies are definitely objects. They are literally, it is literally objectification. He slaps a woman in that movie. I've made it a lot of notes about how he treats women in these movies, because that is undoubtedly going to be what the episode is about. He says, he tells a woman to leave and slaps her on the ass and says it's time for man talk and gets rid of her. And then, but all of this is pretty gross. But then in Goldfinger, he forces himself on a lesbian, and that's wrong on the whole. But it also, the movie frames it as, after 10 seconds of her resisting, suddenly, he turns her straight. Yeah. And now she's like, you were raping me, but now it's okay.
I was waiting for this to end, because I was saying the one thing I know about James Bond is that in the books, he believes in corrective rape.
Yep. In the book, it is apparently much, much worse. But yeah, they romanticize this scene. And the fact that it's romanticized is actually even more gross, because you're trying to make a rape scene pleasant and pretend it's okay, and that's gross on another level.
James Bond is colonialism in every sense, cultural, violence, sexual. It's literally white, straight British values being stabbed into every other person and culture around the world for 50 years.
Including the moon.
Literally.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I know it's coming. There's this other thing. In Thunderball, by the way, I watched the entire movie. I had to go back and read a synopsis to remind myself what Thunderball even meant. It's just mentioned as the operation name halfway through the movie. Mm-hmm. I kept waiting for this movie to have some sort of there's some sort of apparatus called a Thunderball or something.
No,
it's not.
No, that was my stripper name, actually. The scriptwriter was so impressed that they decided to name it after me.
Okay. So, there's a scene where James Bond is getting a massage from this woman, and she's not interested. And then a man comes in, and he's and Bond is strapped to a table, but it's has mechanical gears in it, and he presses a button to kill James. And then a few minutes later, the woman comes in and turns it off. He's like, "Oh, you must have hit it by accident. Here, let me get you into the other room so you'll be okay." And then Bond basically, he knows that it was some guy trying to assassinate him, but instead he says, this is your fault, and I'm going to get you fired. And she says, well, why would you do that? And he's like, well, there's one way that can get me to change my mind. And he coerces her into having sex with him under the threat of termination of her employment and livelihood. It's bad. And by the way, I know someone's halfway through writing a novel length comment telling me that it was a different time. Dude, some of this is just super illegal, regardless of it being in the 60s. This isn't thousands of years ago when we were still throwing our shit against the wall and calling it paint. It's a few decades ago.
Leon, before the Beatles debuted, it was basically just Mad Max Thunderdome over there.
Yeah, look, a lot of what happens here are sexual crimes. And it's not okay to look back on it and say, well, different time, rape. She says you can't say that. You can't make excuses for this kind of thing based on stuff like that. You have to dissect it and say, hey, as it turns out, this was wrong, and we should at least acknowledge that. We can use context and explain that, yes, during this time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you can still like the movie and be like,
yeah,
I don't like the baby bits.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, my favorite movie in the world is Blade Runner, and my most hated scene in any movie is also in Blade Runner. It's hard for me to reconcile that, but like as an adult, I have to sit here and say this was wrong, and that's okay to say that.
Also, even for the time, they knew it was wrong. They just thought it was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just wrong in a cool way for them.
Yeah, that's the sort of like uncomfortable part about this.
But remember, guys, Idris Elba is too street to be James Bond.
Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna just start screaming and never stop.
Okay, so but here's the thing: like, if the movie framed Bond's actions as all like being like uncomfortable and questionable, I'm not saying I would feel completely different, but that's not how the movie frames it. All of his forced, coercive escapades are always framed as him being the ultimate ladies' man.
Oh my God! Oh, jeez. I'm sorry.
What?
You just dug up memories of the V for Vendetta movie.
Yeah. I can't defend that part. I'm sure I know.
In the sense that, like, also in V for Vendetta, the main character does all these fucking, like, awful, terrible things. They never frame it as gray. It's like, at the end of the movie, it's like, well, he was right all along, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. When the movie says it's okay, that means that is the message you're supposed to take away from it. And framing is kind of important in that regard. So anyway, James Bond, the first few movies in the James Bond series are gross on a level I wasn't expecting. But here's the thing. I can watch a movie that is uncomfortable for me to watch and still sometimes say, like, well, you know, here are a lot of good things about it. But again, these movies do not age well at all. They are not fun to watch unless you're some kind of like Bond fanatic who's like a completionist and you have to watch the early shit too.
Some of the stuff is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten there yet, but okay.
Just for how ridiculous it gets.
Yeah, I usually like the gimmick villains like Jaws and, you know, the the fucking guy with the hat and Christopher Walken. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
The gimmick is Christopher Walken. He doesn't have like a special. It's just that he.
Sure.
Yeah, he just kind of appears. He's like, "Is this a movie?" And then they fight.
Yeah.
When I watched Goldfinger, I was really confused by a couple scenes. One is when they introduced Goldfinger. That's just his name. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like a nickname, like he has a gold finger.
No,
like
that's the Austin Powers goof.
Right, I didn't understand like that was the thing. I assumed that a character named Goldfinger will be this sort of like diabolical dude, and one of his fingers is gold, and he, I don't know, like pushes people over ledges with it or something.
His name is Goldfinger.
Yeah, he's
Kevin
just some
Goldfinger.
He's just some tubby guy with a bad accent in a mustard-colored suit. And he's not imposing or intimidating at all. He's just some dude who's like a sore loser about things. And this is like the most iconic villain besides Blofeld, I guess. I'm not impressed. So
even if
there's
the movies did age better, I feel like Austin Powers has completely obliterated any mystique they may have once had. Like they were like, you know, it was like a pillar of the action genre. Like you couldn't take that away from it even if you didn't like them until like Austin Powers made it kind of a punchline. Like every single thing in it has been so thoroughly lampooned. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know.
That's why the Daniel Craig Bond movies were basically chasing the Bourne movies.
Yeah, they're not the same at all.
No.
Yeah. Sorry if some of my thoughts are not like super coherent tonight. Like I'm trying to like articulate more eloquently about this. I'm just really uncomfortable and hot.
Yeah, I can't even keep my eyes open.
Yeah, so I apologize if that wasn't like up to my usual standards of, but like, long story short, Bond bad.
Bond bad.
Yeah, Bond bad. So I'm still gonna watch all of them because I'm gonna do my due diligence on this. They're not all bad. I definitely like two Bond movies and maybe a little of GoldenEye if I'm recalling it correctly. So he has a tank in one scene, I think.
Yeah,
and that's pretty.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fun. Yeah. Okay. I'm done with Bond. I'm sure I have some other things to talk about, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
So,
Let's pass the baton. Austin, what do you got?
please.
Yeah, this might be a short episode. So I've been playing a bunch of old video games, just trying to get them out of my queue. I played XCOM 2.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, so
But as I recall, in my playthrough and review of the first one for Blistered Thumbs, you were the man.
yeah, so it's always a time-honored tradition to give your characters specific names, give them a kind of a unified theme. In my playthrough, all of them were Dice Funk characters, and I have to say, Drop Goodwood eliminated the alien menace. Just mowed them all down. No one can stop him.
Just what he does, man.
Yeah, so my thoughts are a little scattered, but XCOM 1, very good. I think you gave it Game of the Year. It was between that and Dishonored for you that year, I remember.
Yeah, and that was a tough decision.
Yeah, it's very good. And XCOM 2 is mostly more of the same. It has a bunch of new alien varieties, and they flipped the dynamic. So the first XCOM, Earth is being invaded by aliens, so you have to fight them off. And this one, Earth has been taken over, and you are a resistance in a spaceship trying to make like guerrilla attacks on what is basically a unified alien-controlled Earth. So it's kind of like the reverse, which is pretty clever. The main problems I have with it is that it runs like shit. It runs like dog shit, Johnny.
What'd you play it on?
PlayStation 4.
Okay.
Because it was free with PlayStation Plus. Free. I pay for PlayStation
Yeah,
Plus.
yeah, totally.
It takes like 2 minutes to load anything. It's just so slow, and it's really glitchy. I have all these times where I shoot someone in the face from 2 blocks away through 3 buildings, but the next turn I put a gun in someone's mouth and pull the trigger and I miss. Those aren't glitches. Those are just XCOM, I guess. That's just how the game works.
Yeah, that's just kind of it.
Yeah, but no, just like terrain disappearing, weird graphical glitches.
That's a shame.
I think here's my layman's understanding of what's going on is because everything in the environment is destructible. There are so many variables, right? Like every building can be destroyed, each piece of it, and there's like multiple stories, and they have to count for every sight line of every enemy and every player. There's just literally so much going on sometimes that you just get weird interactions where the game thinks like this makes sense and it just doesn't.
I was really surprised to see that they even tried to port it in the first place. So, I mean,
my understanding is that it was very successful on consoles, the first one. So I understand why. Even if the first port wasn't the best, it was very successful.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of wonkiness, although I did very much enjoy it. I had a lot of fun. I didn't lose any soldiers, and I
Good
beat
for
it.
you, son.
I didn't play it on a higher difficulty. I'm still at that normal scrub bullshit, but I felt good about it. It's a really cool game. So that's XCOM. You shoot aliens, strategy. You can't make them kiss, but you take what you can get. Other old game I played, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, another PlayStation Plus game. Before that game came out, there was a big controversy because the promotional campaign was called Aug's Lives Matters. Aug being the in-universe term for people with fucking
cybernetic augmentation.
Yeah, prosthetics was the word I was looking for. But yeah, sometimes it's like military-grade hardware. Sometimes it's just like I lost a hand in a 4th of July accident. And they're all somehow the same category. And that was a very problematic ad campaign, which really doesn't reflect the game. The game mostly is pretty responsible with its politics. It does a very smart thing that I've been hollering about for years, which is to not make the emerging AI allegory a race allegory. That's something that Detroit Become Human is in super hot water for. That's the new David Cage game, where it's like robots exist, and they're basically black people. One of the robots in that game, I know this, I haven't played the game, but I know it from all the memes and stuff. He literally says, "I have a dream." And like it's on the nose. And yeah, maybe someone will be racist to a robot when it gains sentience. But the better allegory is class, because they're going to be used for labor. It's right there. They are the underclass. It's a labor allegory, idiots. And Mankind Divided mostly sticks to that. There's also some immigrant stuff. There's a lot of people like checking your papers. But also labor and immigration are intrinsically linked. So, like, there's an essay to be written about the Mankind Divided's politics. I think it's mostly good. Or mostly in good faith, I'll say that, even if it's not the most nuanced. But they're actually trying. The promotional stuff didn't really do it justice. The other thing I'll say, it has a great sense of place. The other Deus Ex games were like, you're in Detroit for a while, now you're in New York for a while, now you're in Hong Kong for a while, and Mankind Divided is all in Prague. Like, the whole game takes place in Prague, and you really get a great sense of it. Like, I knew where everything was, and you really feel like at home there. And then as it degrades into like a police state with like hyper aggressive police force, very topical. It's like, oh no, now my home isn't safe anymore, and it's a good feeling. The only other thing, I mean, this is the coldest take humanly possible. Everyone on the internet has already said this, but it ends at the halfway point of the story, because according to like inside sources, the second half of the game was going to be released as another full game, because Square Enix didn't think it was going to make enough money, which it didn't. So they were right. I will say though that if you look at it as half a game they charge full price for, that's pretty shitty. It's a bad move. If you look at it as an expansion to the last one, what was that one called? Human Revolution. It's like an expansion and an add-on to Human Revolution that deals with the aftermath of that plot, because like Human Revolution builds to a plot, right? Like a very specific plot moment, and this game is really only about the fallout of that. I think it works as a really good coda to that plot point. But I didn't pay full price for it, so I didn't feel burned. I feel like if this had been released under different circumstances with different marketing and stuff, like the game itself is fine. It's just all the context and the circumstances are weird.
Yeah.
I will also say that because it ended so abruptly, I did not do the thing I did in Human Revolution, which was shoot the last person in the head in the game, last person in the game in the head, so that I wouldn't get the pacifism achievement. In Human Revolution, I did a completely pacifist run, no kills, no like a full stealth, and then I was like, "Oh, this is the end." So I shot one person in the head as I walked to the last cutscene, because I didn't want to get the achievement, because I'm anti-achievement. And in this game, it ends so abruptly, I didn't know what was going to happen, so I got the pacifism achievement, and I was like, "Damn it,
traitor!"
Yeah, so it's a pretty good stealth game. It's mostly a good political game. It's a weird release, is what I'll say. And the series might be dead because it didn't sell super well.
I mean, reportedly, it's not. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to, quote unquote, retool the franchise.
Yeah, like what Square Enix did with Hitman.
Well, no, I mean, they sold Hitman to its original development studio.
No, they were like, yeah, we're going to retool Hitman into this episodic thing. Fuck it, too much work. Get rid of it. That's kind of the thing I was trying to draw there.
Right.
Yeah. Last game I played, before we get into the questions, Fallout New Vegas.
Have you never played Fallout New Vegas before?
I only played a little bit of it. I put like 100 hours into Fallout 3 and like 50 hours into Fallout 4.
Austin.
New Vegas came out when I was in college. It was a really busy semester or something, and I just didn't. The game fucking rules.
It's the best Fallout game since they went first person.
It's my favorite of all of them, and I understand why people have attachment to the first two. But the gameplay, I tried going back recently, like 2 years ago or so. I could not play them.
I know.
Yeah. So the writing in New Vegas is outstanding. Every quest is memorable. Like last night, me and my brother were up to like 2 a.m. just talking about our favorite quests. He played it when it came out. And like 7 years later, he remembers every quest because they're all distinct and meaningful and cool.
I have rigged it so that I can play Fallout New Vegas in virtual reality.
Hell yeah, dude. But like when I think about Fallout 4, the only thing that sticks out to me was Nick Valentine. That's the only cool thing that happened in that game. In Fallout 3, there was like the giant ants, there was Tenpenny Tower, there was the city with the bomb in the middle of it, and
Megaton.
In Megaton, and there was the big Russian robot thing.
Yeah.
In New Vegas, every single quest fucking rules. You fix the rocket so the ghouls can go off to the promised land. You have the survival horror Silent Hill ass DLC where you're trying to pull a heist on a casino. You have the fucking long road into the basically the Grand Canyon with all the nukes and shit and the death claws all over the road. Like
I really liked dragging the Rat Pack together to perform at the casino.
Oh my god, yes, all the casino shit is so good. There's the people who are on the white gloves and the masks and they're all cannibals, and there's like the fucking try-hard, edgy blade motherfucker club. There's the gang made up of only Elvis impersonators.
Yes!
There's the dog with a robot brain. There's the super mutant who thinks she's your grandma. Everything about this game fucking owns. I literally can't believe how good it is. Like, I heard it. It's like, this is the coldest take. Everyone knows, like, oh, New Vegas is the best. Fallout 4 is such a disappointment. Like, I agree, obviously, because it's the right, correct, true opinion. But I hadn't actually put the time into New Vegas to say it with authority, and now I can. It's exquisite. I can't believe it.
I'm glad you're on our side.
I was actually reading into development.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What did you do at the motel?
So with okay, so I remember the hotel, which is very clever because that's if we're talking about the same thing in Novak.
Yeah.
So in Novak, which is an amazing joke, I didn't get it at first, but there's a sign by the hotel which said no vacancy, but the letters fell off, so it just says Novak, and that's what they named the town. Very good. The quest where there's this sniper whose wife went missing, and you have to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
That's the quest? Yeah, I solved it. I found the person who was responsible, and the key tells you if you find the person, put this hat on her, or on the person so I'll know it is a her. And I was like, okay, so where do we have to stand? And I was trying to figure out, and I was like walking next to her, and her fucking head exploded because the sniper blew her head off, and it was like a jump scare. It like freaked me out. And I was talking to my brother, and he's like, yeah, when I did that quest, I was up in the sniper's nest with him, and I just watched him shoot her. And I was like, I didn't know how that was going to trigger in the quest, so I was walking right next to her when it happened. Oh my god, yeah.
I'm proud of you, Yorsky.
I exclaimed out loud when I saw the Novak sign. I was like, god damn it, that's so good. Yeah, I could go on. It's so good. Who'd you side with on your? Because one of the big like gimmicks of it almost is like that. There's like 4 different factions vying for control.
Yeah. At the end.
Yeah.
I think the first ending I did was telling Mr. House to go fuck himself.
Mm-hmm.
And blowing him up.
Yeah.
And then just owning New Vegas myself.
Same hat.
Yep.
That's me as well. I didn't blow him up. I unplugged him. So I think he's technically alive, but he can't do anything, which is very cruel. But I was trying to play no kills, which isn't quite possible, or it is, but the game doesn't want you to do that because there's a couple times where you get like ambushed by like people who are just like raiders, so they don't can't be talked down.
It just happens, yeah.
But yeah, so what I kind of did was I found a companion who was a Mexican zombie cowboy, which rules. And I went everywhere with him with maxed out speech. So anytime someone wanted to start shit, either they had a speech check I could pass so I could talk them down because I had full big dick energy and they couldn't do anything about it. Or I'd be like, well, you talk to my friend here, the Mexican zombie cowboy, and you two hash this out. And he would just fucking waste them.
And how disappointing is it to go from New Vegas to Fallout 4, where you can like dutifully employ things like speech and bartering and, like make your way through the wasteland without necessarily having to like seriously have a shootout with anybody, to Fallout 4 where violence is always the answer.
Yeah. I'm trying to even remember any quest I actually resolved with speech in that one. If there was, it didn't stick out in my mind. So
yeah. It's
yeah. Yeah, the last thing I'll say is just a really, really surprised by how good the DLC was. I bought it on Steam with like all of the expansions and stuff.
I
and
haven't played the DLC yet, so no spoilers.
Oh, it's so good. I don't fuck with DLC as a rule, like very, very infrequently. I got the stuff for like Mass Effect and for like a couple Bethesda games because it usually comes with it. The expansion, there's 4 parts of it, but each one's like 5 hours long, and they tell their own basic like a story beginning to end. Like there's foreshadowing in each one for the end, and
Right.
they're all very mechanically and atmospherically distinct. One of them is just a straight up survival horror. Like it takes all your stuff. You have to play stealth. The enemies come back to life if you kill them. Like fighting is not a good option. There's these really strong characters. Like as soon as I told my brother, I was playing New Vegas. He's like, "Did you get to Dog?" Like there's a character named Dog, and he was so excited to talk about him. He's only in the DLC. That expansion is incredible. Very frustrating, but incredible. And the other 3 are good as well. One of them is very Portal-esque. There's a lot of characters who are like, "For science, we must destroy the communists." It's, oh my god. And there's a horny light switch. Anyway, I could go on. New Vegas is extremely good. All right. Are you ready for questions, guys?
Yeah, please.
Oh god, Leon. I'm sorry.
Now, I just realized now that since I've talked so little on this episode, I could have just like turned the air conditioning on, and then just removed that later.
I tried to talk you
editing.
into doing the freezer technique. Just walk out of the room, put your head in the freezer. Let's see. Oh god, you guys want a heavy one or should we have a lighter one?
I'm not up for heavy.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry if you asked a heavy question. I see some in here, and it's just like we can't. Here's a nice softball. Tony Patura asks: is there a one-hit wonder whose career you follow beyond their hit? I have an immediate answer. You want me guys to jump in?
Go ahead.
So unless I'm completely missing something, Modest Mouse is really only known for Float On.
No, they did make a hit with Ocean Breathes Salty as well.
Did that chart? I'm unaware.
I think it did.
Okay. I would say my understanding would that they would be a one-hit wonder. I own all their albums. I have them all memorized back to front. Like they're one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, but you heard about them before that, didn't you?
No, I was in like middle school when that came out, so I wasn't into indie rock. That was my first exposure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the easy way to do this would just be like to Google one hit wonder and see if any of the bands jumped out to you. But let's see here. Oh, I found a wrestling question for Leon when I'm done with this one, so that'll be nice and easy.
I don't know. Probably. Like I'm looking through. The problem is that like finding someone who had a hit that I'm also following. Like I've got Modest Mouse in my history too. Like Dan Mangan hasn't had a hit.
Yeah, no hit wonder.
He should. He should have like 7 by now.
Have we talked about this on the show? He has a couple of new singles out, I presume, for a new album.
Yeah, it's coming later this year.
Okay,
I think in September.
The first one was Fool for Waiting, which is a song about being in a relationship when one of you has mental illness. It's heartbreaking. And the other one is Troubled Mind, which is about trying to keep up with the news in 2018. And
Jam of the summer, man.
It's a fucking dance slapper for some reason when it's about watching the news and being driven crazy. Yeah, I don't know how he keeps doing it.
Fiona Apple.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have been following Fiona Apple's career. Because, like, what was that one song that she had that just fucking...
Criminal? Criminal?
Yes. Yeah.
I think she has had other singles, but I really do not remember them.
No, she does, but, like, her 2003 album, Extraordinary Machine, and her 2012 album... the idle wheel is wiser than the driver of the screw, and whipping chords will serve you more than something ever will. Are just brilliant albums. But, like, apparently Criminal is, like, the only one that charted. She's a phenomenal songwriter. And if you get a chance to check out the idle wheel is wiser, which is just how everybody kind of like calls it, do so. Leon?
I don't have an answer to this at all.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Are you really into Asia? You're not.
I can't. I don't even know.
You are not
what
really.
he's done.
You are not really into Asia. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. They have really sweet album covers.
They do.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, the Buggles, man.
All right, here's one for Leon. Tell me if you can handle this one. Cyrith asks, Leon, are you excited for the return of Team Hell No? Parentheses, wrestling!
No, because they teamed during the few years where I was not watching wrestling. So
You could have, Leon. You could have just responded to that question. Hell no.
What is it,
sorry.
Leon? Explain. I want to learn.
Team Hell No is Kane and Daniel Bryan in a tag team together. I think most of their run, like I said, I wasn't watching wrestling then, or if I was barely watching it and on my way out. So I don't have any like fond memories of them doing that. They do play off each other well. Basically, Kane is like a homicidal maniac who like burns people and he's evil, and Daniel Bryan is like a nice vegan fellow. And they formed a tag team where they didn't get along for that reason. They reformed like a week ago, and then the week after, which was from the point we were recording this, it was last night on SmackDown. They did like a thing that was like they recounted what they did in the past and their previous storylines during a wackier period in WWE, and it was very like postmodern, where they were like deconstructing like how nonsense all of this is, and the fact that they are actually still friends, could actually still be friends. Like Daniel Bryan said, "You tried to abduct my wife," and Kane said, "Yeah, tried to."
Come on, bro. It didn't actually happen.
Right, and then later in the night, Kane says, "Look, Daniel, you're like a brother to me." And Daniel Bryan says, "You set your brother on fire," because that's Kane's backstory, that he tried to murder the Undertaker with fire or something like that, or it got turned around that was like it was secretly something else, and it's very like Dark Shadow soap opera stuff, yeah. But the point is, like, they keep bringing up all this like continuity about stuff that makes Kane a completely like despicable character, but it's like, let's also hug. It's like when you actually like deconstruct this stuff, it's very strange. So I'm enjoying it, I guess, but I would rather Daniel Bryan be a single star right now instead of like in a tag team that he was in years ago. He's the most popular babyface in the company, and they keep putting him in this these nothing programs where he should like really be the headliner of the show. I think the reason they're not ready to be completely behind him now that he's returned from his forced retirement is he hasn't signed a new contract yet, and it's up in the beginning of September. And they're not ready to like put the world title on him until he commits to a contract, and no one knows exactly why he hasn't signed yet. It might be because he would rather go wrestle in Japan, and it might just be money. He might not. He maybe expects more.
It's a work, Leon. That's a term I know.
Has anybody checked to see if he would do it for exposure?
Oh my god. Yeah, they live. It might be a work if they brought it up on television a few times, but it's actually like actual sports writers have explained that he hasn't signed yet. Wrestling is like covered by like ESPN and Yahoo and all those like things. So it's these days it's usually pretty easy to find out what is a shoot and what is a work. Not 100% of the time, but almost all the time. But yeah, he hasn't signed a new contract. That might be the reason. Then again, like maybe he hasn't signed a new contract because you keep putting him in nothing programs. now that he's returned. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing where I can't figure it out. So yeah, I'm kind of into it, but like Kane should have retired a while ago. Kane's, by the way, some sort of like libertarian politician, also running for mayor.
He's still running? I thought he won.
Yeah. No, he won the primary.
Oh, okay.
But he hasn't won the whole thing. And it's weird that he's like running on a platform of his small government ideals, and also he's on TV sometimes as a monster. It's like
with someone who's connected to the huge federal government and is also propping up who's done propaganda for the Saudi Arabian authoritarian government. So love that small government.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I feel about that. Yeah.
So I grabbed two more quick questions here so we can get Leon into the freezer. Quick one. Yep. I can do. Candice at Candycorn on Twitter asks M19 hype. M19 is Magic 2019, the new core set. They're bringing core sets back. Long story short, for a long time, Magic the Gathering released really like stock standard vanilla stuff every year. So,
I'm sorry. Yeah. I apologize. I have to interrupt.
Yeah.
I misunderstood what you said, and I thought that you meant that they were bringing in corsets.
Oh, corsets. Nice.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's neat.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go
Just
ahead.
put corsets on the dragons. No.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your nerd stuff.
Nice. No, core sets.
Yeah.
So it was like Magic. It was like 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, almost like D&D. And then they switched to years. So it'd be like Magic 2011, Magic 2012. And then they stopped for a while because they sold very poorly because they had no flavor. Because like the other sets, what are called, I think, expert level expansions, have like, you know, pizzazz. It's like, this is the Egyptian set, this is the Mesopotamian dinosaur set, this is the horror set, and the core sets are just core sets. They don't really have any identity. Nobody bought them, so they stopped making them for a couple years, and the result of that was the competitive scene fucking collapsed on itself. There was an unprecedented wave of bannings throughout Kaladesh and beyond, and then Wizards realized, oh yeah, that boring set, we need a lot of those boring cards because they make the game work. So they're bringing it back in. It's called 19, but it's coming out in 2018. It's like Cars, where they do it a year ahead. Apparently, the reason for that is because if you have a year previous in a product name, Walmart won't stock it. That is the actual reason Wizards does that, according to them. So they're coming back. It's pretty cool. This time it does have a little bit of flavor, which is that it kind of loosely tells the story of the game's current villain, Nicol Bolas, because to piece it together, you would have to look at every set going back to, I think, 1994 when he debuted in Legends.
Don't do that.
No.
Just trust me, pick it up from, if you're looking to get into Magic, just pick it up from right now and be like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it's actually the best time to get in because they're kind of doing a set which is all about catching you up. So instead of having to go all the way back and figure out who the fuck Nicol Bolas is, they show you the story on cards. There's like, he used to be an all-powerful god, and then he lost his powers, but then he took over a society and used them as slave labor to build him a zombie army. That's the story. So that's the like flavor of it, which is pretty cool. I already knew all that, but if you didn't, it's a good, stepping stone. For me, the interesting thing is that they are printing actual good versions of cards that are called the Elder Dragons. They're very old cards and they fucking suck, but they are beloved because the way to play the game called Elder Dragon Highlander, which is now just called Commander, used to be based around them, but they suck. But now there's good versions, and I think that's cool. I'm also looking forward to the new whiteboard wipe, Cleansing Nova, I believe. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy of that. Anyway, I'm excited. I don't play professionally, but I'm definitely picking up some cards. I know my brother has his eye on, I think it's Gigantosaurus, which is like a 10/10 for 5 or something fucking stupid. But yeah, I'm interested in it. So hype, reasonable amounts, yes. Last question, so then we can all fucking die of heat stroke. James Neely asks, Leon and Austin, but Johnny, you can join in. How do you feel about the 4th of July this year? Do you even celebrate it? How does the current administration affect that?
I don't. I celebrated the 4th of July by buying Indian food from immigrants.
Yeah.
They make good malai kofta, and I felt like today is a good enough day to eat that and break my diet, I guess. Do I celebrate it? No, I'm inside recording while other people are like screaming outside my window and blasting their bad music and shooting off fireworks. I don't feel particularly patriotic right now. I'm not sure that's like a feeling that I normally get, like in general. It's not that I dislike America. I don't want to live in any other country. I tried that and it didn't work. I'm very American. But like it depends. When people say like, "Do you love America?" It's like, well, what do you mean? Do I love like our culture in general? Because it's that's so huge. Do you mean, do I like our government? Only occasionally, but sometimes better than some. Not our current administration, but like some others a little more. But it's like a sliding scale. Do you mean, do I love its people? I haven't met most of them. What it's such like a wacky thing to say, like, God, I just love America. And it's like, well, what parts? Like America must have been really good for you to just use such a blanket term like that. It kind of speaks to like a weird privilege you must have to say that you just genuinely love America nearly all the time. And it's usually those people who say, I love America all the time, that like bristle when you mention problems with America. It's like, if you love something, you should try to take care of it instead of just like patting it on the head. But like I guess everyone defines love differently. Yeah, I don't know how to answer this question. I'm a puddle right now.
I think patriotism is a Neanderthal feeling for cave baby morons.
Okay, you're taking a harder stance. That's okay.
What is it? It doesn't mean anything. You didn't earn it. You didn't accomplish anything. It doesn't. It's bad and dumb, and I'm fucking dying. No, I mean, until I was 18, my family did like cookouts or whatever, so I guess I celebrated it. That's in some traditional sense until I was on my own, and now I don't do anything differently because it's meaningless. Well, Johnny, your Canada Day is my 4th of July. It's just like
pretty
chill.
much.
I realize I'm gonna get someone out there is gonna get their feelings hurt, and I'm like, I don't mean anything by it, but like, what are you proud of? That's not rhetorical. What are you actually proud of being American? Did you do it? Are you taking credit? Did you kill a redcoat? I don't.
I think one of the favorite sayings is, "Well, we saved your ass in World War II."
We didn't.
And it was like, "Oh, were you there?"
I'm pretty. Let's be really clear here, and I apologize if I come across like a tanky for saying this, but really, the Russians saved all of our asses in World War II. I'm sorry, but they did more and died more and killed more than the rest of us. I'm sorry.
This is not a joke, Leon. I spent the day researching American war crimes. I just tweeted out a list of them earlier, but
yeah, I saw.
We fucking did some heinous shit, even during the good wars, like World War II.
The good
wars. Yeah, there were scare quotes there. I don't know if you could hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure if I had a more to say about that. That's basically it. I want to be clear that when I say like the Soviet Union did the most good during World War II, I don't want anyone to think that I'm like a strong Soviet Union supporter, because every time I say something like leftist, someone says, "Oh, I bet you love Stalin." And it's like, no, not even a little. It's so weird that people have to go there.
Some episode we have to fucking talk about the differences between Stalinism and Maoism and Marxism. And we have to explain, Leon, why does socialism so often tend towards authoritarianism? Why is that? We gotta explain it.
My God, there's a lot going
I know.
on there. Actually, I recently I recently watched a comedy movie called The Death of Stalin, made by the creator.
I've heard very good things about that.
It's made by the creator of Veep, and if I hadn't known that, I would have just assumed by the dialogue. It's Veep, but taking place in the middle of the 20th century instead. It's very good. It's very funny, and I appreciate. Basically, it came about when I forget the creator's name, and I am sorry about that. He rightfully believes Hitler's name should be Toxic, of course, but he went to Russia, and while there were like occasionally he would come across like glorified paintings to Stalin because his name is not as toxic there, the way that Hitler's name is toxic in Germany, and you would think everywhere. You would think, yet, and that's, I don't know, and that apparently spurred him on to make this movie, because it's like, we probably shouldn't let Stalin get off the hook historically just because there was another bad boy.
Another bad boy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. It's very good. Steve Buscemi is in it. The only bad part about it is that Jeffrey Tambor is in it. Oh well.
Yeah, that was another question someone asked, was about the new Scarlett Johansson thing, and I fucking can't, y'all. I can't.
Yeah, my entire feelings on this, I tweeted that I am going to be now in the new Malcolm X sequel, Malcolm X2, X-Men United. That is my joke. That is the joke I made. I feel like I've explained how I feel about that through humor. I don't want to say anything more about it right now while I am drowning in my own sweat and can't form coherent. Just assume that I think it's a little bullshit. The argument for this is always, well, we have to get like a big name actor in these movies, and Scarlett Johansson is like a big name. It's like, oh, cool. Well, why can't like a trans man play the trans man character, and Scarlett Johansson can be a cis woman in the movie? Like, I'm sure there is like a big role for her if they want there to be. And she could be all over the marketing for it. That it's not an either or thing. This isn't a zero sum game. Also, the cool thing about like giving this role to someone who might not be a super big name, you're creating one, and that means more money for you down the road. So that seems like a good idea to me, to try to make stars with projects like this. You could still have ScarJo in the movie. Like, it's not like she will only be in this one role. It's not like that's the only role she takes.
This is really convenient because you could just fucking copy paste the Ghost of the Shell conversation pretty much verbatim.
Yeah, more or less.
It's so convenient for us.
Yeah, it's good. So yeah, that's more or less how I feel. Just literally as we're talking about this, I skimmed through Twitter for a second, and someone photoshopped a picture of Scarlett Johansson's face over Thanos, and him when he only had 2 of the Infinity Stones, and one of them says Asian roll, and the other one says trans roll. She's got to get a few more. She's hunting them down.
Okay, we're actually getting fucking loopy from dehydration, one assumes. So next week we'll come back, we'll explain to you how our ideal vision of the world is different from, say, Venezuela right now, and we'll just clear that up, and then the politics will be fixed. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to us saving the world again.
You ungrateful fucks, every time.
Yeah, that's it. Anything you guys want to say right before you go? Please say no.
Are you guys telling me that I brought all this oil for nothing?
All right, that's it.